Okay. Guten Abend. Willkommen. That's the extent of my Deutsch. So we were going English from now on. So my name's Eric Bugeja. I'm the chair of buildingSMART Australasia. I'm also a director on buildingSMART International. So I always get unlucky and I always get the last session of the day every time I do a conference or a summit. So I'm hoping you're all still awake. You've all had a good coffee and you're ready for this final session. So our final session is called Advancing Together. And it's going to be a combination of some very short TED-style talks, so 5-6 minute talks. We'll have about 4 talks, and then we're going to have a panel. Some of the gods of industry from all around the world are going to come together on our panel. We're going to ask some questions, and we might invite the audience to ask some questions as well. So the 3 topics we're going to cover: how AI and machine learning can benefit from and enhance industry standards, what it takes to develop the next generation of standards to meet evolving needs, and how to attract and empower talent to drive innovation in a built environment. Particularly that last one I think is quite important, the people side. So the theme of people has come about in many of the sessions that we've spoken about now. I'm going to start with the first session, and I thought I wasn't going to do any slides, but I thought I will. And the first slide I'm going to put up is a bit of an embarrassing slide for me. So I'm quite an introvert. I don't like talking about myself. But I think if we're talking about people, I wanted to give you an example of my own journey as an engineer. So I started my career in engineering in the 90s. I won't tell you exactly which year I started as an engineer. And I had quite a unique journey, which wasn't typical of a lot of graduates becoming engineers into the industry. I'd always had a passion for technology, and I started my career working with a Dutch engineer who was in his late 60s. At the time, I thought that was very old. I don't think that's very old anymore. But he was a very experienced engineer, traveled the world, he knew all disciplines, and he said to me, I will teach you about engineering, but what I want you to do is teach me about technology. So you show me how we can be more efficient with the way we work as engineers. We worked in a 2-man company. I'm going to get off this slide because it's embarrassing. But in my very early days in the 90s, I started to explore design software, 3D design software, and this is the way we started to do our designs. So we were able to do our analysis. I could work as an engineer. I could check things. I could make sure they go together. I could extract information. I could extract 2D drawings. I could send it to our little workshop. So we were doing that whole life cycle together using that technology. And I thought that was the way that engineers worked. That was just normal for an engineer. I was completely wrong. So after I left Peter, who was my old Dutch engineer, I went to work for a bigger consultancy. And this is what I experienced. So many graduates come into the industry and they feel like this. They have all these great ideas and they understand all this great technology, but the very senior engineers or the architects say, that's not how we do things. We've got an established way of working. Make sure you work like that. The first project that I took on when I started into a bigger company, I worked in manufacturing and I worked in automation, and I had to design a production line. And the company said to me, all the software we've got is 2D drafting software, Excel spreadsheets, and that's how we work, which is what I wasn't used to. So I gave it a go. I thought, okay, I'll try and use this software to make my design. We had 3 weeks to do the design. After the first 4 hours, I got frustrated and I downloaded, I won't say a pirate copy of software, I got a trial copy of some software. I know there's software vendors in here, so I don't want to be prosecuted. But I downloaded some software and I was able to produce the design in 2 days, and I presented it to my manager. And my manager said to me, we can't give that to the client because we told him it's going to take 3 weeks. And then it dawned on me that this engineering and construction world is this how we work? And that's the battle that I've lived since the 90s to now. So still, here we are in 2025 and we're still having some of those same discussions. Trying to unlock the technology, which is made for engineers and architects, but there's still a perception that it's not for us. So why should we bother with digitalization? So we have representation here from all around the world. So I'm going to run a little construction Olympics. Let's call it the construction Olympics. So I'd like someone to put their hand up, or anyone to put their hand up if you've had in your country any big infrastructure project, let's say over $1 billion, potentially a government-funded infrastructure project, that's been delivered on time and on budget. This is the gold medal. There's only one event. This is the gold medal event. Oh, one. Is that Lee? He's from Australia? No, that can't be possible. That's impossible. Yes? What country? Sweden. I think Sweden's got a gold medal so far. Switzerland. Wow. I'm going to run an audit on your projects. I'm going to double check that you're telling the truth. But for the majority of us, many of these big infrastructure projects, I've got one more there putting his hand up. Well, there you go. Of course, the English have to jump in and say, yeah, we can do it as well. But that's the challenge. A lot of these big infrastructure projects using taxpayers' money is running over budget, running over time. We could probably build 2 railways for the price of 1 if we're more efficient. Why does this happen? Now, whenever I run training, I work for a big construction company as well, and we run training, and I take it down to a really basic thing, which is basically this. Any individual in any role, the decisions you make day to day is based on information. So obviously, if you have better information, you're going to make better decisions. So that's as simple as it comes down to. Everything we're trying to do with BIM, with the technology, is give people access to better information. What is better information? It's accurate. A lot of times on our projects, you get information that's not accurate. This causes issues, causes a blowout. It's current. How many times are we on a project and someone's using the wrong version of a piece of information, the wrong revision of a drawing, all this sort of stuff. This is all the stuff that we can solve with proper structured digital information. Easily accessible. When you're sitting on a project and you think, okay, I've got to make a decision, how long is it going to take me to get that information? If it's going to take 2 weeks, you don't bother. You just make the decision with the information you've got at that moment in time. So the more quickly we can get people information, the better decisions we're going to make. It's relevant. We should be able to come in the morning, sit down at our computer on our site and say, here are the top 4 things you need to deal with today. The problem with some of the technologies, we're getting bombarded with so much information, it's hard to filter through. And this is where AI can start to help us. Obviously, it's got to be secure, and that's the main thing. So overall, the core statement is, what are we trying to do? It's simplify, rationalize, improve work-based processes, connect people by leveraging digital data, technology, modern approaches across the whole project lifecycle. And this is one of the toughest bits, to improve design, procurement, construction, and facilities management to deliver better outcomes to all users. But the key one here is whole project lifecycle, and it's very difficult to get everyone involved early to structure the project, to build on the information as we go through. So yes, I work for one of the biggest construction companies in the world, but even for us as an old-fashioned construction company, we're now starting to get real traction, not only in BIM. A lot of our government clients now expect us to hand over structured digital information, so they're starting to get quite mature. But we're starting to explore as well. We're moving away from file-based transmission of data. We're setting up centralized databases. We're collecting information from multiple systems. And the way we do that is, partly with the use of IFC as part of that transport mechanism to transport that data. And once we can pull that together, AI really helps us to interrogate that information. Now, we've had projects to try and develop structured data, and I think someone said earlier today, with AI, we can start to take some of the unstructured data, and I'll ask the question of the panel later, is structured data still important on our projects? So the question that we'll explore as we go forward, what does this mean for buildingSMART? How do we adapt to this rapidly changing technological world? And these are the questions I want to explore in this session. So now I'll hand over, and I think our first speaker is Daniela. So Daniela Becker from Autodesk. So I invite you up to the stage. We'll just cue your slides, and Daniela will present her section. So thank you, Daniela.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. I'm so thrilled that we're advancing together on the stage of the Titanic. I mean, the only way is up, right? So this is good news. I have the pleasure of serving as the Vice President for EMEA at Autodesk, and this is a really important community for all of us to lean in, participate, and really lead. I'm going to talk to you about really human potential today, because it really matters. Allow me to take you on a short journey of radical optimism. of possibility, a journey where all of us together really work on designing and making a better world for all. For a moment, let's imagine empowering our workforce with a strong purpose of the things that they actually do and create for us as humanity. They build homes for people to thrive in, hospitals for people to heal, schools and universities for people to educate and grow, infrastructure, roads, trains, bridges for people to connect and prosper. And there I even say theaters and all of the things for people to dream and have their heart filled with joy. We all too often talk about the gaps and the reskilling and the fear-based initiative of what we might have to do for our industry to leap into the future. I'm here to really share with you that we must inspire differently, to find ways to unlock capacity issues through innovation, to truly take leadership in transforming our industry, and most importantly, for that talent to really unleash human potential that is strongly supported by technological advantages. I'm offering to you a very simplistic way of looking at the world. We've gone from analog to digital, and it's taken us way too long. It's taken us decades. We're still talking the same talk. We're still challenged with the same challenges. I'd like to allow us to dream of a world where we're outcome-based, where we ask critical questions in a world of AI, because that can be the future of us as humans. Utilize technology to ask better questions to drive better outcomes. What might we do as an industry if the right mindset and the right skill allows us to really drive big impact and big innovation? Fast forward, we're in a world where we come together to solve big. We're in a world where we are completely outcome-based thinking approach, start with the end in mind. We really deliver process innovation based off the technologies that are available to us and solve for the problems and challenges that we might do, versus continuously trying to reiterate on archaic, rigid, outdated processes. I believe it takes two things. It takes personal leadership from every single person in this room and in our industry to make the tough decisions and to reimagine a different future with curiosity and courage to take action. And I do believe the approach of tech as a teammate, the concept of empowering, will really be a key to unlocking this new way of thinking. Advancing together to design and make a better world for all in three relatively simple steps. Number one, innovation and impact, changing that narrative of empowerment and impact and purpose. Open standards for excellence. We, as a founding member of this wonderful grouping, and it's fantastic to see in a time where so much division is the case, we're here together to create a better future, is really at the core of how we might advance into the future. I will say we cannot do it at the same speed that we have done things thus far, or we will absolutely fail the industry that we serve, and we will fail the outcomes that we as mankind require from the industry. And lastly, really around evolving the workforce, leading with purpose, inspiration, empowerment, and enablement to imagine a better future that's based on what's available to us here and now versus simply what has happened in the past. And my ask to you is, what one thing will you lead? What one thing will you do, starting from today, that might disrupt the future that might empower your people, that might empower you to drive better outcomes for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. So I'd like to invite to the stage Sunil. So Sunil from buildingSMART India. And as you listen to these talks, start thinking of some questions for the panel later. So this is just to inspire you. Over to you, Sunil.
Thanks a lot, Eric. And that was great. I'm sure everyone is now excited and waking everyone up. So I'm here, Sunil. I'm from buildingSMART India. We are relatively a young chapter, just about to complete 3 years. And in my practicing career, I'm a digital transformation consulting advisor. I work with companies in terms of setting them processes and help them in adopting digital tools and processes. So I'm going to be talking about the people aspects, specifically on the context that Eric just touched about. And of course, namaste to all from from buildingSMART India. And when you just look at, I think Aiden showed a very beautiful slide. He was putting up all the chapters all across. And then I just looked at 2 additional matrix to add here. We collectively represent about 60% of the global population. And we are actually talking about representing more than 80% of the global spend. And I thank my counterparts from Asia, specifically Japanese and Chinese chapter, who make sure that we have a very respectful, attendance here. Thank you. So with this, moving forward, we are like a family. And as you look at the people aspect, let's just look at the organization in itself. Some are young chapters, some are very mature chapters, and like a big family, typically coming from India, we're used to joint family. So we have elders who want to make sure that everything is in control. Younger guys are here who wants to go out of control. Some are lazy, and then you will see all kind of typical family issues here. But together, we are just united with that vision, what brings us together, and that's the people. That's the people which will make sure that the technological vision, the vision that we have in terms of creating a smooth interoperability across the industry, I think we can achieve that by creating a huge or strong people-based platform. As we talk about specifically, one of the, the session, probably the topic that we have to attract is the talent. How are we empowering and how are we attracting them? And, I just wanted to put up a small story because in this small talk, I did not wanted to kind of create any hypothetical reference. So coming from India, I thought, let's go back, look at some example that I can cite here. So I go back to like 1947 when we just got the independence. And around 1950s, we were discussing about, setting up something for India where we can, put up a framework of an educational system, and that can empower us, that can help us to develop and, facilitate towards the goals of industrial development that we wanted to achieve at that early stage. Because when we got independence, it was a very bad state with reference to the state of the country. And in fact, I would like to also mention that the picture that you see here is the early collaboration with the German, specifically when they helped us in terms of setting up IIT Chennai, and also that laid the foundations of Indo-German collaboration, which also has subsequently laid foundations to a lot of technological evolutions and collaborations amongst the countries. So that was a good policy initiative from a country perspective in terms of creating talent and looking forward to using that talent for the welfare of the country and taking it forward. So what started was we set up a system of some very good institute, very good educational institute across the country. And we actually established a stringent screening mechanism. Almost every year, if you look at from an India perspective, about 1.5 million students apply for these engineering students or these engineering colleges. And close to about 15% gets the opportunity to appear for the exam. And then only about less than 3% of them are the ones who are successful. So that's the kind of ratio. And eventually what we did was we established that institute. We started screening and getting the best talent out. And then about 40% of them went abroad. Okay, so that's a learning. It was also a blessing in disguise because over a period of time, these people who were the cream of Indian engineering talent, if you see Indians across in different institutions and different organizations globally, they are the ones who are representing the process and the outcome of what went there. But what we couldn't do at that point of time was inviting and providing them a very favorable ground. And then drawing back the learning to end up my slide, what should we draw, like the learning for the built environment sector? Specifically, if you see here, 90% of our sector, when you talk about the AECO sector, the companies are SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprise. I'm not talking about subject matter expert here, just to correct that. And these firms are generally run by entrepreneurs, run by firms which are mostly controlled by people. And then when you look at the kind of talent we are talking about, it's basically the most disruptive phase of human evolution, where the talent is very different. These are Gen Zs. They don't have that specific stability need. They are more aspirational. So when we create a vision, when we kind of attract and align them with the thought process and ultimately create a nurturing environment to kind of give them fearless and equal opportunity, I think we will be able to attract and make a great contribution towards the built environment sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. So I'd like to invite Lex Ransijn. Is that the right pronunciation? Did I get that wrong?
Something like that.
Over to Lex.
Let's wait for the presentation. For over the last almost 2 decades, I'm working with building smart standards into real-life building projects. Somewhere here in the Netherlands, where my home, my company is based. You see a dike. On the left, it was an old sea. On the right, it's lower than the sea level. So we have to protect it with a dike where my head is. That's a barrier for the water. I'm also a certified professional recently. And what I'm doing is try to teach my kids to do a little bit open BIM workflows. Actually, it's quite difficult for them if they are used to game engines, game stuff, getting fast. And it's actually a kind of maybe old-fashioned workflow, but it works for us. We deliver good projects. And maybe some of you know me from this infographic. We've created it almost 10 years ago. And in our own country, more than 500 companies are voluntarily supporting that. They promise they will use it to make agreements how to deliver IFC projects. And some of you were involved translating this to almost 20 languages. You can see that on the map where you can use. It's free to download from our website. And thank you, buildingSMART, for creating the IDS standard last year and the year before, because therefore we had only this infographic, some written text, but now we can make this machine readable, so we can speed up the checking process for our models. And what do I do? What do we do in the Netherlands now with perfect structured models? We can standardize our bill of quantities, for example. And the same quantities are used for cost calculations, life cycle analysis, or notary deeds, or building permitting. We all use the same information for different use cases. And for example, the digital building permit is also popular where we work on in the Netherlands, and I'm involved with. You really need to regionize to make a local configuration of your IDS based on your national building code. So that's why we collaborated together with some software vendors, some real estate developers, municipalities, and of course buildingSMART to create a standardized space IDS. And the same information is being used for educational buildings. We have a national program where I'm hired for. They wanted to improve 10,000 school buildings that were outdated. So we created the information requirements for point clouds and using spatial requirements and combined this with the national registry. You can see now it's an IFC export of all our buildings in the Netherlands can be exported to IFC. With the right geo-referencing, you can coordinate them on the right location. And also one thing we do, we drill piles to lower sand layers in the ground for the foundation of our buildings. And the general contractors working together, and they said we need our input from the structural engineers in a structured way, and every project in the same structure. So we have created an IDS for only the IFC pile topic, but it was quite interesting what came out of there. And also the power domain, I think maybe in every country, they are now being trained in the middle. Different competitors, we have Movares or Sweco, but they all wanted to create for Tenet, that's the client, the same export from different software. But when we succeed in this exporting training, we can end up with 500 IFCs for one project. In the submitted awards program, I see a lot of projects with more than 500 IFCs as files, and some of them still working in an old schema. Why is that happening? And 2 years ago, I was asked to collaborate, to work on a concept called data spaces. Does anyone work with the concept or familiar with the data spaces concept? I wasn't. I didn't invent it yet. But we published something in the Netherlands on a website, and there it's all about giving access to the data from the owner's perspective for business transactions. So the owner of the data controls who's having access, not sending the files over and over again, publish it in different versions on a website, but streamline with RESTful APIs and JSON messages the data. And it looks a little bit like the OpenCDE APIs of buildingSMART. And I think that this community should invest more time and resources in this API movement for the next coming years. So we can ask AI, for example, to connect them with the right APIs. Give me all the MVP related to a certain bathroom in a certain apartment, and that it only gives us a few parts of the geometry, and not 20,000 files, which is a lot of data. So we have my last slide. I think we have to move from IFC in step files to small JSON messages with only the changes through the APIs of hopefully buildingSMART, but that's where we need to discuss about, I think. Thank you very much for your attention. And I can stay on the stage, I think, Eric.
Round of applause for Lex. So I'll invite the rest of our panelists. So Sunil and Daniela will come back up to the stage. We've also got Rita Sanfilippo, the head of BIM Competence Center at Lombardi Engineering. Marc Nezet, who you met earlier, Chief Strategy Officer from Nemetschek. Hassan Albalawi, for CEO and founder of Wake Up Technologies from Saudi. And I think they've covered everyone. Have I got everyone? Yes, I've got everyone. So come to the stage. So we've got panel from all around the world. So broad industries, vendors. Oh, yeah, round of applause. Look at that. Oh, Jeffrey. I nearly forgot Jeffrey. Jeffrey Avina. So welcome, Jeffrey. Okay. I'll start with some questions, but then I'll throw over to the audience. Since Rita is next to me, I might start with Rita. And Rita, you might just introduce yourself briefly after I ask you the question. So considering your expertise in tunnelling and sustainability and your commitment to digitise design, construction and maintenance processes to improve the outcomes of the world and industrial system, how does OpenBIM and AI support you in your mission? Very open question, very broad question.
Yeah, very broad question. First of all, yes, I'm Rita Sanfilippo. I'm BIM manager of Lombardi Engineering, based in Switzerland. And yes, I am also involved in research and development for all the group and part of steering committee of European Underground Tunneling Forum. Why I'm saying that is because I trust in the combination of this expertise in order to develop good outcomes for our clients. Our clients are mainly tunneling infrastructural owners and also hydropower firms. So in this context, it's important for us to deliver projects that are robust, based on open standards, in order to manage all the life cycle stages of the project. So in this field, of course, open standard is the basis for us. This is why we are collaborating with buildingSMART International since 5 years at least, in order to develop also standardizations for tunneling, geological and geotechnical aspects, for example. Regarding AI, of course, it's now part of our research and development task, mainly based on maintenance field. I mean, we are developing, for example, recognizing from point clouds defects inside tunneling, or also using analysis of sensor data coming from inclinometer or a sensor in a dam to recognize defects, and also to manage analysis of structural and hydraulic analysis. So these are the main field of research and development. But for sure, at the basis of every research, it's the development of standards of data model that can be reliable, in which we can trust. So this is our and my main goal in my company.
So trust is a big word. And then it brings us to AI, which is the big topic. Every conference I go to now, it used to be digital twins, but now it's AI. It's all transition. So, so on the topic of AI, so I'll hand over to Daniela, I guess, with your presentation. So what impact has AI had on current work practices in the building industry? This is a question for you. And how will it evolve the human workforce? This is always a question and a debate, right?
Indeed. So I think we're at this incredible turning point in the history of how we operate between human and agent, right? I really foresee AI to become a revolution, not an evolution, of how we might work and how we as engineers, architects, collaborate and utilize the power of knowledge and data, unleash creativity, address some of the capacity issues. Again, we're in an industry where it's not about a lack of demand, it's about really responding to how can we and how might we serve the capacity issues that we have. I really see this as a fundamental time to stop and think, how do we, as leaders in this industry, come together and imagine what the future will look like? There's no facts when you talk about the future. Facts come with hindsight. And I do think this is a classic moment where looking in the rearview mirror is not good enough to drive the road that's ahead of us. I believe in a time where, again, we're talking about early stages where models will not be conceptual models, but they will be deterministic models where we can actually, with voice control, design and create structures and models. We're not that far away from that. We have announced just at our conference last week, we have models that are in beta version right now that can do that. So what do I believe the impact is going to be? I believe how we operate and how we work is going to be massively disrupted. I believe in radical optimism, as I said. I believe in abundance, and I believe in taking charge of your own destiny. So imagine how you could utilize this ability to create multiple models at much faster delivery time to create best outcomes for your customers. Will it be charged the same way? Will it be delivered the same way? The answer is, I believe, no. And therefore, I think it's a very positive thing for us to reimagine what it means to be human, utilizing technology and agents to really support the build of the future.
And I can say from my perspective, I know we've got a small engineering team, in-house engineering team, with a lot of very senior engineers who have struggled to adapt to BIM-based software, as I presented in my slide. And what I'm finding, what AI is allowing them to do is get access to all of that technology where they were scared to open up the software. They didn't know what to click. The UIs were a bit complex for them to learn. Now they can just ask questions, run analysis, parametric modeling, generative design. That opens up that whole world to people that don't have that technical ability. So it does start to democratize that technology.
For sure.
Anyone else want to comment on the AI component before we I might ask Hassan. Let's ask you a question. So relating to AI again, and then we'll move on to another topic, I swear. So how can AI and real-time data from connected job sites help shape and accelerate the adoption of open industry standards while ensuring the construction workforce remains central to the digital transformation? So similar to Daniela's comments, I think.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much. First of all, my name is Hassan. I'm the CEO and founder of WakeUp. I got to construction by mistake. It wasn't the plan. I think I found it was very interesting that many people actually share the same kind of history where they were not planning to be in construction, but they ended up in construction. So WakeUp started as a company, as a spin-off of my PhD research. Got into this industry, and then we found so many problems, which for me was like very exciting, having so many opportunities. We at WakeUp focused on monitoring the workforce on the site with a privacy-first sensor solution that doesn't use GPS nor rely on internet to work on the site. It's built from the ground up for this industry to help us know what's happening on the site during the execution of the project. The labor-intensive, I would say, feature of this industry allow us to really basically collect the basic information that we really need to know, which is like where the labor are. And from this information, we're able to link it to so many other additional use cases, from safety to productivity. Today, we have more than 20 products just on top of knowing where people are. From there, we were able to get into other information like equipment and others. But let me tell you one thing that was like very, very surprising. There was no standard. And this is when somebody told me about buildingSMART. And believe me, like I didn't believe it when I got to know about buildingSMART. So I became like a really big fan. It's just answered a lot of questions to the point where we had to really invest in getting the chapter and invest and cooperate with multiple people to get this chapter open in Saudi Arabia, which I'm very, very proud of. So from this perspective, when we start collecting data, here is the reality from where I look or from where we are experience AI and the use cases that we have. During a project where it's getting executed, the data we collect, it cannot be standardized easily. Not because the standard doesn't exist only, but also people are not willing to share the data. And that, I would say, is the biggest blocker for utilizing the data from one project to another. So in other words, we had to really look for what's in it for every stakeholder. What's in it for the worker? What's in it for the supervisor, all the way to the owners and the contractors? And one thing that was very clear to us in our journey was, if you start with the owner to get the data in such a way in a standard format to improve not only productivity but also safety on the site, things actually gonna get a little bit easier. And this is where I believe AI came. We couldn't do any AI if we don't have the data. So we started looking at this specifically if like, what does it mean for having a real-time information about resources on the site? If I don't know the rest of the story, like the schedule, the model, then we cannot actually do much. I mean, we have a lot of use cases that you can do with the existing information. However, the minute you link it to other data source, like the model and others, things becomes 10 to 100x more valuable. You get to know the exact actual effort needed for delivering a certain project or certain, let's say, unit. Then you go from there in trying to understand how to utilize this data even further. I like what you mentioned about like how to engage with the data. And this is, we're definitely leveraging a lot of the AI today in such a way, and how can we improve this information? And I think what Lex mentioned about how can we actually make it accessible, where we are trying to deal with the concern of the access, privacy, safety. How can we actually standardize all of that? This is what I hope OpenCDE and buildingSMART start looking at, other dimension of the data for sensors, not only after delivering the project, but also during the execution of the project.
Thank you. So this will be, I'll throw this one to both Marc and maybe Lex as well. So two-part question. So will AI change the time to value? And does it let people off the hook in terms of having to structure data? Do we just forget about structured data now? Not necessary, because with AI we'll solve our problems.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. I think, and actually here on the panel we are quite representative of the value chain around digitization. Some of us are making the software. Some other ones are, let's say, providing consulting services, sensors, hardware to make it happening. And some of us are trying to get the outcome out of all of that, and all that will work. Of course, only if we work together, and I'll come back to that later on because I wanted to comment on what you said, Hassan. But I'm going to first answer the question: do we all have a common interest in the industry to be less dependent? Then, thanks to AI, we don't need to structure the unstructured in data. Thanks to AI, we can virtualize, simulate better. Our answer is yes. And collectively, we should not be afraid about it. It is in our joint interest to the entire value chain to make sure that the general contractor, the specialty contractor, the owners can have faster time to value from any digitalization project, and faster time also to value, depending less on consulting in a way. There is enough job for everybody to continue to transform the industry. So we should not be at all defensive on the way we'll leverage it. How to make it happening? You know, you all know real-time manufacturing and automation. They have their standards defining interoperability. They have OPC UA where they can exchange data real time, and you can, whoever you are, manufacturing, coffee, Nespresso capsule, manufacturing chocolate, manufacturing whatever, you have standardized protocol. So we need also absolutely for us to support that this value chain that we represent is embracing the future and shaping tomorrow. We need to shape tomorrow with the standard of tomorrow. So it means basically, straightforward, we need AFC5. Our industry collectively need it.
Thank you, Marc. I know Jeffrey,
we shape tomorrow today with a standard of tomorrow. That's extremely important that we have it as a mindset. And that, just going back to what you said, Hassan, earlier on the data, and sitting in the shoes again of the end user, of the owner, the investor, or the GC, or the large engineering firm. What we need to provide them from a technology standpoint and a technology stack is a governance layer for trusted data. In a region like Europe, we start to be in a lucky position where we have GAIA-X, we have the EU Data Act, we have the Digital Service Act that will give us the possibility already to play around that framework. But the combination of those two elements, let's say standardization on getting faster, more automated, let's say, delivery of the digital solution thanks to a better interoperability, combined with a proper governance on defining what is a trusted data and giving all the power in the hands of the data owner to govern and administrate the transaction of its data, this will unleash a lot of value for our value chain.
Lex, did you want to? I have a mic on. If
I think there's a lot of comments on this one. So,
but I have a question. Maybe if I'm on this stage with the three biggest sponsors and software vendors, but do you plan maybe to stream the data in between your own ecosystem? So if we can stream the JSON IFC5 between your ecosystem, then it will be the best example, I think, to really share data, live stream, like in game engines or Netflix or YouTube. Maybe we can do something like that with the three of you. How do you think about that?
I'm happy to start that. Actually, let's get that applause going. Because it's such a weird reality. You got to remember, by the way, that these kind of changes where IT and AI have taken a lead is already well established in most other industries. We're like the last, which is quite interesting. And therefore, when you look at it, a leap thought, there's a reason for the name. I mean, leap thought is made up of systems engineers who've looked at a problem and tried to figure out exactly why that problem exists. Often problems don't exist for bad reasons. Problems exist because whatever solutions were designed at a certain time and the way they were working was correct for that time. As my friend here says, this is a new time. AI and the opportunities provided by open standards and BIM mean that there's much more possibility to use data in seriously expansive ways, where you don't look at projects, you look at profiles, where you don't look at designs, you look at sets of designs for an enterprise. I've come from this experience of working in Asia, and I've seen the experience of the Middle East and some of the Nordic countries, which are very advanced, and now I sit in the US, which is pretty legacy-driven. We've got some really serious heroes out there. Will Sharp's here from HDR. I think Jag Malala is from WSP, trying to drive the needle forward. Will being the big supporter of model as legal document, which I think is important. The fact is, who is going to ask the companies to work closer together? You are, enterprises. When will the companies fully respond? When you ask. Because if we don't succeed. The good news is, our three companies are working very closely together right now in terms of collaboration, et cetera. But the demand has to come from the owners. And here's the problem. The owners, in many instances, are different construction firms, different architectural firms, and they are not uniform. In my mind, my way of thinking, the real owners are the enterprise players, the entity owners. This was mentioned over here. And if you think about it, if you're the one making the investment, and at the end of the day you have a building, but you don't know how it was put together, and you don't have the data sets about how it was done, and those data sets aren't integrated, then how do you manage the next 40 years of that building? Somehow the right questions have not been asked, and possibly because never before was the capacity to get those questions answered quickly. AI can do that. AI can do that even for people who are not AI deep, like myself. But the fact of the matter is, it does require a vision forward. And I want to come back to just my thoughts of having listened to Max Tinius. Thanks for having him here, the futurologist. Because as I was listening to him talk about the way things have been and the way things will be, that also requires a different organizational structure. We can't manage the way we manage. I think you've referred to that. You have to manage completely differently. So if you think that what you're doing now reflects the needs of the future, you're wrong. If you think what you see is working now is where you need to stay, you're wrong. If we're not thinking forward, then nothing will evolve at the level that's necessary. And therefore, you can applaud the ones who are going forward already. China is here leading the way in Asia, Singapore leading the way in Asia, some of the Nordics already discussed, the UK in the back, I heard that reference. But the fact is, the companies that you see in front of you are more than happy to and are currently active in trying to evolve platforms. But remember, when those platforms were designed, they were never asked to integrate. You asked them to do a specific function. And now they're trying to integrate. Leap thought, okay, we're different. We were never designed for an architect or for an engineer. We were designed for an enterprise view to make all things connect. Coming back to the comment made about more APIs, our job is to absorb as many APIs as possible. and bring them into a single sole format and platform. And Singapore is the test case of success in this model. When you look at the recalcitrants or those who are less willing to evolve in this model, that's fine, because what we always say is we can work with anybody, anyway, anyhow. The key is let people work where they're comfortable, and that's part of organizational management. One thing I hope we get to at some point is not just technology, but the process of organizational management, which comes back to some of your thoughts. How do you evolve people? How do you evolve systems? And part of it is making sure that you keep their comfort zones, which is your point, Eric, while you're showing new value add. New value add will impulse change. You don't have to beat these guys up. They know if they don't change, we're not sitting on this panel next year. So recognize that they were built to do what you asked. Understand that currently we're all talking together to see how we can do more. Esri's not here, but they're in the middle of it, wherever you are, Marc. So I don't think it's about us and them in this, and this is the beauty. You made this comment about institutions. It isn't about that. It's about vision, clarity of future demand, and then collaboration to evolve and develop that. Recognizing that what we think now will change when 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, et cetera, et cetera. That's the beauty of AI and machine learning, which we haven't even touched, because now we can do so much more. No question.
This is why it's called Advancing Together, right? This session. So,
that's right.
Thanks.
Can I just maybe add, because I don't want to leave on unstructured or structured data. You know,
we're not finished yet.
It's not that simple. I think it's not an either or, it's an and the word that's really most important is granular data. We're not in a world where we can conceptualize something like, you know, a house staying up is not optional, it's mandatory. We really need to be very, very certain that when we create standards, that they're also referred to in the models that we act upon in a deterministic way. It's not a conceptualizing of an air fryer that may or may not ever get manufactured, but it really is essential for what we do. That leads me to two things. We're absolutely aware, and openly so, going out to create an ecosystem, an open ecosystem to make that possible. It is not about limiting what you do, but it's about extending so we can drive outcomes. In our vision, it is clear that we want to have a possibility where an owner-operator can already from the word get-go understand what models and what data they might receive to operate whatever they own for X amount of time to deliver against the sustainability targets that we have as mankind. So it is really, really important to have a platform-first approach, AI native. It's really important to have connectivity and interoperability, which we're really advocating and standing here for. And it's really even more important to not go into silos. So buildingSMART coming together as an international standard with the end in mind is vital. 40+ chapters doing flavors, dialects of something, to me, could be detrimental to the possibility of what we have in front of us. So again, one ask in return is, let's come together to define really a standard that works for the future and allows us to operate at the maximum level of what the industry needs.
Thanks, Daniela. Final question before we'll go to the audience. So, and this probably relates to what you said. So at a time where we look at global standardization, what are the differences and different challenges between all the regions, and how do we tackle these as an international standards organization? I might start with Sunil, since we haven't heard from you.
Yeah, see, I'm coming from a user perspective. I think we spoke about OEM's perspective as well. And I work at grassroots level with architects, engineering consultants, contractors, and owner operators. Now, if you look at from a data perspective and think like a big data kitchen, and broadly divide the people or the stakeholders into two broad kind of communities. One is responsible for the preparation of data, sometimes very back and forth preparation of data with very squeezed timelines, delivery of those data, and they're in that process. And then second one is in the process of consumption of data, specifically the owner operators and sometimes some scope of the GCs in that portion. We have realized there's a good amount of acceptability in the second part. And to an example where probably India is still evolving in terms of its BIM journey and picking up things, Mumbai has already deployed IFC-based development control rule process. So which means that when you're submitting your models, you can submit an IFC model and that gets checked, and then that becomes a part of the approval process. One of the largest airport in India have come up with a mandate for IFCs. Now that means that the owner operator does have a realization, and from a benefit perspective, it's all good for them when they are specifying that. But when it comes to the community that is essentially involved in that grunt of preparing of data, honestly, the only things matter to them is the ease of use. We've been talking about AI right now, but then if you really talk down and see, we're talking about granularly, pulling out the data, the ease of access, maybe using LLM to kind of make it even better, but essentially talking about the ease of use. And today, if you look at the AEC community, and if you go down and look at the percolation of the OEMs and software without getting deep into kind of your own businesses, the people who have been very easy and who have been very familiar, who have easy interfaces, simple to understand, those solutions have trickled down very well. Things which are very good, very robust in the back end, but from a user perspective, the AEC industry has kind of not adapted that well. And this is how the activity or probably the perception has been on that side. So I would say we also talk about from a business point of view, typically within the AEC community, what matters to them is the ROI, the cost that they're spending on it, and what is the easiest, is it effective? So they don't talk about technology from a commitment to make it open BIM, because the owners, operators are the ones who are concerned about the data, the longevity, and everything to do with the consumption of the data. For the people who are in the broader sector of preparing that data, they're only worried about how quickly can I get it done. And is it the most efficient method? If I have a cloud-based collaboration system, is your proposal going to make it things better, or is it going to make things more complicated? So we are in that midst of things. And I just like what Marc said. If we are able to create a beautiful platform where everybody can collaborate, you guys can hug each other and commit here. But then if we can really make that beautiful world where all of you can collaborate well in that open framework, I believe that we'll have less challenges.
Some good words. Okay, we've got about 20 minutes left, so I might throw it out to the audience. So we've got a roving mic, or we'll take one of the mics. Might take. Yep. Questions? Everyone's going to go quiet now, aren't they? Oh, here, down the front.
Hi, John. Thank you. Thank you for the panel, for these insightful talks. So my address might go to Marc for the AI. So in our construction industry, I think there are already many successful applications using AI without using IFC. Can we conclude that without IFC, AI can be successful, or at least partially?
Yes, probably, but we need, again, and here I want to go back to what Daniela said. If we talk about the human centricity, there will be no successful software without adoption. There will be no successful AI application without adoption. There will be we won't solve, let's say, the big challenges of our industry without a systemic adoption. A building in itself of that kind, if made of many constituting elements, mini subsystem, and our ecosystem is exactly the same. So I would say you need a framework, you need a standard, and I would say you need also a form of regulation around data to create a systemic trust around what we do and to get the impact. So yes, individual tools can improve on very unique and simple workflows, and they can already make the situation better, and we don't challenge that. And there are a lot of creativity and a lot of initiatives in our industry. You have many incubators, many startups all around all around the world, but to create really the systemic impact and also economy of scale and the impact at scale, we need framework. So on one hand, standards, the supporting interoperability. This is a technology standard, but we need as well to unlock the human factor, which is the trust, removing any fears that people would have about the integrity of their own business.
Do we have to create that framework together with this? You were demanding for, we need a framework, but do you think that we have to make the framework together with this group, or how do you see that?
I mean, we are Nemetschek, so we've been always pushing for open BIM, and we choose our partner to do so. It's BSI. So all of us in this room, we have absolutely the power, the mandate, collectively to create that systemic impact. If we won't make it, it's what I would call a missed opportunity, and that generation could take us accountable for.
I want to add to the answer. I think that, I mean, do we need IFC 5 to be successful? I think the IFC 4, IFC 5 question is the wrong question. I think IFC 4 is doing great. And I see the position that buildingSMART's taken has been, we're going to drive both, right? I think any organization, look at Google or Microsoft, Huawei, whoever, they're thinking of the next technology while they're also investing in the current technology. If we don't, we lose the edge, right? So I mean, most of what we've done on the ground has been based on the success of IFC 4. Our organization would be, in my perspective, irresponsible not to plan the next step, because we're supposed to be industry leaders. So therefore, the real thing is, as you use your systems and as it works and it gives you what you want in AI, the real question is, what's next? What is it not doing for you? What do you think could be possible? It comes back to your thoughts about innovation. You want to spur that so that we make sure that we're always evolving the next step forward. And I think that's the position, if I understand, that buildingSMART's taken in their latest resolutions, that IFC 4, 3, go, go, IFC 5, yes, yes as well. Our problems might be a bit financial, but I would always say, I mean, if you're a company, you can't let that limitation stop you from going forward. We have no choice as an organization to be successful to do both. And that is the position that I've seen that has been taken, right? And FYI, LeapThought has been doing open standards since our inception without even knowing BSI existed. I think someone else said that. I mean, we only joined BSI 2 years ago. We didn't realize that we were part of a global movement. I think there's lots of organizations like that in the world. Yep. And so the beauty is having a nexus where as long as people feel invited and there's a space to participate, they will. That's been the key. That accounts for the growth. And I just want to make a call out to the newer chapters. The fact is, just because you're newer doesn't mean that your opinions aren't as valuable or perhaps even more valuable than the older chapters. So don't be polite. I'm speaking as an American who just Donald Trump, unfortunately. Don't be polite. You know what you need and you know why you joined. And I think my colleague from India would agree with that. And I think the last thing, my CEO is not here to say this, but he always says to me, complex problems require simple solutions. Why? Because if it's complex, people aren't going to do it. It should be a single Outlook screen where they don't have to jump back and forth between this, that, and the other thing, because they're not going to do it. People are not that intrepid. So yes, and yes, and yes.
And at pace, right? So I think we are no longer in a time where we can afford to establish a standard over 6, 7, 8 years. I think we need to come together to have meaningful dialogue to create best possible outcome, but really do it with a commitment that is much, much shorter in its lifespan of creation to really keep up and allow people to utilize what's possible.
Technology is rapidly evolving more than it was
Correct.
before, as you guys are demonstrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add my comments regarding the question, because as an engineering company, we are in the middle between, of course, technologies, owner requirements, asset management system. And what I'm looking is that AI is helping to develop easily all these kind of application and task, but only with the solid standards at the basis like IFC, for example, you can utilize this application for different use cases. Typically, AI is used in mechanized tunneling, for example, in recognized maintenance, or so single application. But if you want to collect all this data or to up to date also to other projects or other use cases, you need to work on the basis of open standards. And this is why I really appreciate the work of buildingSMART International to put all of us together to push to develop standards for every single component of our job, daily job as a designer and owners.
Well said. There was a question over here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to pick up a little bit on what Eric started with, which is about the wonderful student or graduate coming into the office and trying to solve the problem in 2 days rather than 3 weeks. So it's a people question. So most of construction, as we know, most people here probably still bill on an hourly basis. So why would a consultant or contractor adopt these future tools if it means they can bill fewer hours? Our industry's incentive and reward and commercial model is time, not outcome. So until we fix that, are we just trying to sell prettier dashboards? And what is the kind of opinion of the panel on this people business orientated challenge? Because the technology is there, technically, a lot of it.
If you allow me to just...
Could I make a quick comment on that? Because I got asked this question. I used to work for a large engineering consultancy, and I got this comment from many people: why would we want to be faster in what we do when we get paid by the hour? And my comment back was, when your competitor is doing 3 times the projects in the time you're doing 1, who do you think is going to get the work? You're not going to be billing any hours. They're going to be going to the competitor who's working 3 times as fast. And that's the answer. You can keep doing it the way you're doing it, and yes, the client's going to pay you by the hour, but if they're getting double the work or 3 times the work from your competitor, you're not going to have that work anymore.
Yeah, this is our Blockbusters moment, right?
Yeah, Kodak, Blockbuster,
yeah,
Uber, whatever.
I truly believe it's that big of a moment. It's that big of an opportunity for all of us. And I would suggest people that don't actively engage in that monetization of labor and how we articulate value will have a serious challenge in years to come.
I just want to add it to it because I think what you just asked is very core to what I practice with my customers. And we have a similar situation where, an engineering consultant specifically working and designing multiple buildings, similar modularized building for the client. And at some point of time, we came together and we started thinking about creating a building configurator, which reduced the time from 3 months to almost less than 3 days. Now, one most important thing that we as a community have to consider is AI is going to impact the business model in which we operate. Essentially, from just spending hours to getting it outcome driven. So even if we are not thinking about that right now, but eventually we will be forced to think on that basis as well. So that's just a very practical, I think, use case or an example I just wanted to quote.
Yeah, I just want to say something here, from somebody who just got into this industry. So the way I realized within the first few years was, okay, there are 3 main stakeholders we're dealing with: owner, contractor, and consultant. Owners want to deliver the project as fast as possible. Contractor want to do it as cheap as possible. Consultant want to do it as long as possible. And it's actually true what Eric says. What we realize as technology vendor, and I was looking at this as an industry problem, somebody who's trying to really figure out the problem. So what we realize, anything a consultant do, it actually should be a technology-driven product. So in other words, there are so many things consultants are doing and taking care of that technology can help and improve. And there is no way to actually do it without consultants. I think we're looking for the consultant who are they're going to take the lead in not only adopting the solutions, but also drive that. And we've seen both. As a startup who's dealing with reducing site supervision, for example, or automating some of that job. we got both, view of the aisle. One consultant would actually basically try to fire us from the site because we literally gonna replace them. Another consultant actually look at it in a different way. How can I actually create much more value? And I think back again to what you mentioned about the monetization. It's not about how much we can save. It's how much value we can create. And this is, we've seen it almost in every perspective. So thanks so much for bringing that and to kind of finish with the owner and consultant. And this is my view, and I'm trying to really correct it. When I look at owners, there are only two types of owners, or let's say it's an analog. There is, let's say, the very hard owners. I'm going to be very polite in using the word. There is very hard owners who knows what they're doing. And there is the owners who don't know what they're doing. How do you judge between them? Well, look how much they spend in consultants.
So it has to be a value-driven discussion. We've got 6 minutes left. I'm going to ask a final question to each of you to wrap up. So what role does buildingSMART play in the future of open exchange? And we've already covered this a little bit, but it'd be good just as a way to wrap it up. What is the role of buildingSMART in the future of open exchange? We'll start with Sunil up there.
I feel that the platform that is required, the maturity of, kind of being that 30-year-old organization, I feel that this platform is a beautiful platform that can provide us all the opportunities to come together and collaborate, because creating such kind of a reliable platform is very difficult. You can have quick solutions. So I think that platform, what buildingSMART provides to all of us together to come and use it as a playfield to solve the interoperability issue, that's the most important thing.
Daniela?
I'm going to take a slightly different perspective. When we think about what we're trying to solve, how many of our countries have housing crises? How many of our countries have aging infrastructure that is no longer serving what we needed to do? How many people getting substandard treatments in hospitals because they can't be built? Even with all the money in the world, we right now would not have the capacity to actually address those issues. So I think we need to go away from a low trust and scarcity mindset to really thinking in a selfishness way about what we might do to address the big topics, electricity, water, for humanity to continue to exist on this planet. And what I believe buildingSMART plays a huge role in is one, advance together as one, to have really the standards that then allow us to have our unique value to deliver to the industries that we serve. But there must be a mandate to have the opportunity to really innovate at pace to solve the big challenges of our time and era.
Thanks, Daniela. Jeffrey?
That's a hard one to follow, so I'm going to go back and quote Daniela already. buildingSMART is already significantly relevant, which is why we're here. And this is, as was noted by Edward, this is the biggest meeting we've had. But there's a lot of people outside the tent still. So that openness, that demonstration of a quality standard, that this is the place to be, and that we're open to all participants is important. Now my quote, indirectly quoted. Daniela said, you can't drive your organization by looking in the back mirror, which means the models that we might have had by how this organization was structured, designed, set up, may or may not fit the requirements going into the future. So coming back to Max, the futurologist, I think buildingSMART needs to strategically look at itself and say, we've established a strong identity and persona. What is required to make sure that we are still the leading cutting edge in the future beyond our current membership into more of a global reality, which you're speaking to. So for me, that's the challenge. It's not the technology, it's the institutional management side of the fence that we always forget about because we're all tech geeks. But it's how we manage people and how we enable people to continue to innovate and evolve in an open structure which actually is serving a broader audience.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Marc?
At Nemetschek Group, we recognize the legitimacy of buildingSMART International under two very strong pillars. One is really to drive standardization, serving interoperability, so helping us to leverage, let's say, as well technology to deliver the challenge that that the industry has to meet. And the second, which is a very important one, is the representation or the representativity of the community, the ecosystem. You could call it as well the collective intelligence that our industry is representing, both from, let's say, the diversity of stakeholders, let's say from technology providers, design firms, down to also building operators, investors, owners, but also across geographies. It means that housing is not Europe only or US only. It's a world topic. To build, maintain, build sustainably is a worldwide topic. So I think it's also a responsibility of buildingSMART International to be the representation of our community worldwide.
Thank you, Marc. No, there's a lot of being said already, but
we've got a minute.
1 minute to go. I keep it short. I see that as a community, I learned a lot. Every summit I've been here, people I can send messages, share knowledges, share insights, share best practices. But I also see a lot of scientists doing research on certain topics, and I don't see them that much here. So maybe we can do a little bit more collaboration with the scientists. They're also learning us what's possible, and if we can implement that with the right software vendors into the industry, their ideas, I think that can be maybe the buildingSMART AI with all the knowledge that we have created with all the best practice. If we put it maybe in a large language model, then we have our own AI.
I think one thing I learned from my journey is that I agree with Jeffrey. Things will only work when you mandate it. And the mandate that works is actually from the owner mandate. We're so happy that one of the latest chapter that we opened is Saudi chapter. So I do agree with Jeffrey that we're going to be so bold that we're going to drive the mandate, not only just any mandate in Saudi Arabia. buildingSMART chapter in Saudi Arabia should be driving the latest mandate, the latest tool, because 10 is easier than 2. We cannot deliver the vision that we have with just a simple approach. We need to really think out of the box. And for that to happen, we need to, again, to your question about the IFC, we need to enable the latest tools, to use the latest standard, the latest learning in order to actually have the 10x, the 100x value that we really need. So hopefully, I mean, buildingSMART, it's actually the best thing that I ever found in construction, to be honest. I'm so happy that I got into this industry, because everywhere I looked in almost many of the dimension, construction, they don't have a really good place to unite them, except buildingSMART so far.
Yep.
Last? Yeah, I think that in a time in which we are living, in which artificial intelligence, neural linking, deep learning is driving our decision making, we need to trust in people and also in the business interests that buildingSMART put together, like in this summit, in order to drive innovation in a more sustainable way. And this is what we are doing actually now in this summit, thanks also to buildingSMART. So this is the outcome that I see.
Thank you. And so just wrapping up, I think we've just had a lot of good discussion here. But buildingSMART's not just a standards organisation. I guess around the world now, across all of our chapters, we advise governments, we help with training, with the PCERT program. So I think we've also moved beyond just standards. But I think the main point that we've come out here is we need to be looking to the future. So the future of the standard and the future of how do we upskill the people side of it as well. So with that, thank all of our panelists. So a bit of a round of applause for our panelists. And now I think I'm inviting Dan to come up and give us instructions for the next steps, which I think we're starting to get to the fun part, as if this wasn't fun enough.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. So I'll just take a few minutes here just to talk a little bit about what's going to happen over the next couple of days before you're all free to leave.
Wait.
So you've seen this slide already. Yeah, with the overview of the week ahead. But this is what to expect. We've had a brilliant start to the event, but we do still have an immersive couple of days ahead. Today's been busy with more than 500 attendees, but tomorrow will be even busier. More people, more sessions. We'll have all the breakout rooms. This room will split into 2. We also have another 4 rooms upstairs, so there'll be lots for you to choose from. If you're only here for today, then I'm sorry, but everything you're about to hear is what you're going to miss out on. So maybe next time you need to buy a full ticket. First of all, we have the 10 buildingSMART domains that are going to be presenting. They will all be upstairs. So you can go up there, you can hear from them what they're working on and what they're working towards. That will be on both Tuesday and Wednesday. We have the awards finalist presentations. That is all day tomorrow in the room that will be on that side of the split. There's 8 categories that are presenting throughout the day, 22 finalists from 12 countries. And we have an elite jury, 12 members, that will be deciding the winners, who will then be announced on Wednesday afternoon during the closing session, which will be back in here. We also have the call for papers. The traffic to the website every time we launch this is increasing, so it's becoming more and more popular, to the extent that actually this time we needed to add an extra room so that we could fit everything in. So please do go and check that out. There's 26 presentations scheduled amongst 3 rooms, open to anyone to submit, so there's a wide variety of what you can hear in there. And we have a couple of games happening. They're both on Wednesday. We have IDS Bingo. That's at 11 a.m. in the room München. And we have the Building Information Management game. That one has happened a couple of times already, so you may have already played it. First come, first serve. So if you're keen to get involved with those, please make sure you're there on time. And then at the end of the event on Wednesday, we have the Summit Social. So the venue is the Schmelzwerk in den Sorottihofen. Sorry if I butchered that. The best way to get there is by train, or you can take a taxi. Probably takes about the same time. Smart casual dress code and welcome drinks from 6:30 p.m. We will remind you again on Wednesday, and it is a ticketed event, so the invitation to everyone who's got a ticket for that. Then once that's all wrapped up, just to let everyone know, we do have a chapter conference at the end of the event. We've got around 60 representatives from our chapters, 35 of them at least will be here in person attending, and the board are also meeting, and we'll have meetings with our strategic members. So for many, the event ends on Wednesday, but for many more, the meetings continue until Friday. That's gone 2 at a time. So we do have an official photographer at the event, and we will be publishing the photos in due course. It'll probably take a week or so to get the photos. The presentations is another thing that's often asked, the PowerPoints that we turn into PDFs. They'll be shared as soon as possible, sometime next week. In the meantime, there are some unofficial photos being uploaded to a gallery online, which can be accessed via the QR code there. So I will leave that on the screen for just a moment if you want to take an opportunity to scan it. And as that's up there, I am going to pass the final word of the day to the same gentleman that gave the first word of the day, Gunther.
Thank you. But the 7 of you, or the 8 of you, I would ask you to just leave, or allow you to leave. Let us put it this way. Okay. I don't need that one. Thank you. Okay, because we need this space later on a little bit. So maybe someone can give me a hand. Dan, maybe we need these chairs to be removed. Because you remember a couple of hours ago, I started with an unpleasant news. Now I'm happy to give you pleasant news concerning women in BIM. You know, probably it has some tradition that we ask the ladies in the audience to come together for a souvenir photo. So whoever feels addressed, come upstairs to this stage later on for a souvenir photos, ladies only. So this was my last announcement for today. The end of the opening plenary is the right moment to point out that many people were involved in the preparation of the summit and still are involved, of course, until Wednesday or even Friday. Above all, I would like to thank our event management team, most of all Dan, Lisa, and Wilma. The last ones are not here in the room, but Dan is here, so I want to ask you to give them a big shout out, because it really takes a lot to organize an event like this. I would also like to thank the event team at our venue. It's the team of Hotel Titanic Chaussee, and our event technology team partner at Ambion. They always responded flexibly and calmly and professionally to our many changes and additional requests. So please give a shout out to our service teams here on site. And thanks, of course, to our communication team, especially here at buildingSMART Germany. Those guys who know how to communicate, to address a community, a worldwide community, they were relentlessly reminding us to provide content, to provide progress in program planning, so they have their content. And that started about 6 or even 9 months ago. So we were actually kind of driven by the communications team, and sometimes it's a bit annoying, but still we are glad we have these people who know how to communicate. So another last shout out to our communication team at buildingSMART Germany. So, and now for those of you who have a ticket, who are invited to join our birthday party, it's about time, not in the next minute, but maybe in the next 30 minutes, to cross the street to the Ballhaus. That was my last announcement for today, and now the stage is for the ladies reserved. All the ladies, please, if you feel like it, come to the stage and have souvenir photos for Women at BIM. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.